Hello everyone, I am Miss Arina and today we will talk with you about relative clause. So, what is relative clause? Relative clause. A clause can be a sentence by itself, but we can make one sentence from two separated using a relative clause. For example, I got two tickets to see Vanessa Jones. She sings like an angel. Or we can say, I got two tickets to see Vanessa Jones, who sings like an angel. Relative pronouns who, that, or which. Another example, we watched Toy Story at Dave's house last night. Toy Story was the first Pixar movie. Or, I love the puppy, it is jumping at the kitchen. Now, how can we make relative clause from these sentences? First, you should ask, are these sentences related? And then you should see what relative pronoun we can put there. So, first we take Toy Story and we watched, yes? So, we watched Toy Story, which was the first Pixar movie, at Dave's house last night. So you can see here in first sentence we have Toy Story, and in the second, yes, also Toy Story. So we understand that these sentences are related and we use relative pronoun which. Another sentence, I love the puppy that is jumping at the kitchen. Relative clause we have defining with no commas and that has necessary information essential to distinguish which thing or person we are talking about. For example, I called my brother who lives in Korea. It means I have more than one brother and I called the one who lives in Korea. And non-defining, it puts between comma, has extra information and not necessary to distinguish which thing or person we are talking about. For example, my brother who lives in Korea is older. I have only one brother and I am just mentioning that he lives in Korea. Also, for defining, we can use that. We can use that instead of which or who. For example, that's the mug which or that I bought in Paris. Or I didn't know the man who or that was there. Relative pronoun can be omitted when they are followed by subject plus verb. Do you like which or that I wrote? And that the man I like. Who or that I like. With non-defining, we cannot use that instead of who or which. For example, these bikes, which cost a fortune, are made in Japan. We can't say that cost a fortune. Relative pronoun cannot be omitted. They introduced me to John, who I liked immediately. And here you cannot say John I liked immediately. So we have people, and with people we use who or that. When we have subject, before verb can't be omitted. That's the who or that stole the money. And for things, which or that. That is the dog which or that attacked me the other night. And we have object. With people, object before subject plus verb can be omitted. We use who or whom and that. For example, we need to find people who or whom or that we can trust. And you should remember that whom is formal but rarely used. And for things we use which or that. I'll wear the trousers which that I bought in London. I'll wear the trousers I bought in London. Who is a subject pronoun. We use who to ask which person is a certain way or does an action. Who is in the bathroom? James teaches English. Subject who. James, who is a lovely guy, teaches English. And whom is an objective pronoun. We use whom to ask which person receives an action. Whom did they choose as a team leader? For example, I met James at university. And we add whom. James, whom I met at university, is a lovely guy. But remember that whom is more formal. There are two differences, yes, between who and whom. You can see. That and which. That introduces restrictive clauses. We live in a house that has a pink roof. Introduces an important detail. Which introduces non-restrictive clauses. We ate all the cupcakes which I baked. Added topic, and the sentence does not lose the meaning without it. So it is the difference between that and which. Preposition plus relative pronoun. It's not very common to use prepositions before relative pronouns. We just do it in formal language. He wrecked the car for which he had paid a fortune. He was a man for whom everybody had great respect. The most common position of the preposition is at the end of the relative clause. He wrecked the car for which he had paid a fortune, formal and not common. He wrecked the car he had paid a fortune for, or he wrecked the car which or that he had paid a fortune for, more usual. After a preposition, we can only use the pronouns whom or which. We cannot use who or that after a preposition. We can also use whose after a preposition. The team signed with the young Maradona in whose skills everybody had their hopes. And now we're gonna do some practice. In this task, you should choose the correct word. Did you really understand that what or which I told you? Mr. Dean, which, that, or who had recently been fired, had a long list of misconducts. The victims, most of which, whom or who were adults, are being identified by the US authorities. I like the scene where, which, or what Dorothy meets Scarecrow. This is the man whom, which I am in love with. I wasn't honest with Kenneth, that or which made him furious. The police searched the vehicle where, which, or that the gun was found. Don't forget to put the pause, okay? And now we are gonna check it. Let's go. Did you really understand what I told you? Mr. Dean, who had recently been fired, had a long list of misconducts. The victims, most of whom were adults, are being identified by the US authorities. I like the scene where Dorothy meets Scarecrow. This is the man who I am in love with. I wasn't honest with Kenneth, which made him furious. The police searched the vehicle where the gun was found. Very good. And next task. Here you should make relative close sentences. She worked for a man. The man used to be an athlete. They called a lawyer. The lawyer lived nearby. I sent an email to my brother, My brother lives in Australia. The customer liked the waitress. The waitress was very friendly. We broke the computer. The computer belonged to my father. Okay, do your task and put the pause. Let's check. She worked for a man who used to be an athlete. They called a lawyer who lived nearby. I sent an email to my brother who lives in Australia. The customer liked the waitress who was very friendly. We broke the computer that belonged to my father. And here we finish our lesson. Thank you for your attention. Bye bye.